Disclaimer: the views and opinions expressed in Nerdy Talk do not reflect those of Anime Herald. Due to strong language, viewer discretion is advised. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Hey everyone, it's time for Nerdy Talk again. I'm Mike Ferrer, and I'm joined by the Fallon people.
Anthony Simpson.
Giga!
And I'm Granny Smith.
Now featuring 100% North Korea jokes.
For those that don't understand, we ended up getting a large influx of traffic from North Korea for our last podcast for some reason.
Yeah,
Gee, I wonder why.
Well, I compared them to Media Blasters. That's why, but I can promise you now there won't be any more North Korea jokes in this show.
Maybe Dennis Rodman was there, and he's a huge fan of Anime Herald, as we all know.
Well, personally speaking, I'm just relieved that it's probably not very probable for them to attach dogs to their short-range Cruddy missiles.
At least not yet.
Yeah.
You're the man now, dog!
Alright, so...
used to be James Bond.
Alright. So, what's everyone watching this week?
Well, on one hand, I actually started watching SAO again. Because I'm a masochist, I guess.
Good show. Shane never got a second season.
What do you mean masochist?
Well, anyways, the reason I'm watching it now is Netflix actually is streaming SAO on. And actually, they also have today, as of this recording, they've added Monica Magica to their streaming site. And I just figured, well, it was a good time to do it since I just need something to watch. But since the last recording, two of the shows I was watching this winter season, Nari Con and Wake Up Girls both have finished. Nari Con wasn't actually that bad. It was actually pretty good. 10 episodes just wasn't really enough to tell the whole story. The last few episodes went by very quickly. That being said, I still did enjoy it. I'm probably not going to watch it again. It doesn't really give off the roar that I need to see it again. Wake Up Girls was okay. It got a little cheesy at times with the I-1 Club, the manager. This is the way he talked. It just was a little too malicious, if you ask me. But again, it was an okay show. I don't think I'm going to rewatch the first season ever again. If they make a second season, I might watch it just out of curiosity. But if they don't, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Other than that, still the same shows I was watching since last time. What about you, Mike?
Well, last night I finished off Kill la Kill finally.
How was that?
It's one of those shows that just kept building and building and building. It by the end, it was just absolutely batshit loco.
Yeah, man. Cover the world. Sherman Williams style.
Well,
No fucking what?
I'm not gonna go into spoilers, but it didn't go as far as.
I think I just did.
Yeah, you did. You gave a pretty bad one. But it didn't go as far as Girl in Laganne, where they were pretty much hurling galaxies at each other. But it did get to the levels of absolute absurdity in a good way. Other than that,
the other galaxy doesn't have any clothing, so there was no point.
That is true. So there's no nudist beach. Other than that, I started rewatching Ranma One Half with the Blu-ray set. Still going with Nisekoi. Still going with Tonari no Seki-kun. And I actually went out and bought Gokudo after hearing Benji talk about how big of an asshole the main character is. And I'm going to be honest, he was 100% right. This guy is pure douche.
He's a personal hero of mine.
Wait, what was the show again?
Gokudo, it's an action comedy series by that was released by Media Blasters. Basically, the main character is, well, he's the biggest jerk you'll ever meet. Like, in the first episode, he gets this magical flaming sword that'll come back to him when called. So, Gokudo's first instinct isn't to go save the world, to do anything big. No, he goes and sells it to several shops and keeps calling it back. I mean, the guy is just an absolute... Well, he's a jerk-off. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. He's a dick.
He's the
And
character you wish you could be in all of those Western RPGs where you actually get to do things like kill NPCs.
exactly. And he's being followed this whole time by a passive aggressive genie that's trying to get him to do the right thing.
It sounds like the main character in Grandia too.
Spends a
Ryudo, is
lot of
it?
time drinking too. Yep, that was Ryudo.
Yeah. It's just total asshole that somehow eventually manages to do the right thing. It's kind of like the way you could describe it, it kind of sounds like the Hancock style anti-hero.
Except Hancock was only funny for maybe 20 minutes before that film turned to shit.
Exactly. I mean, Gokudo is just hilarious. No matter what, he's just out for himself, and it's
That's
great.
right. And then even if he gets what he wants, he gets bored. So he's like, fuck this.
Exactly. I mean, I'm just waiting for him to burn down like a
Now
shop
I
or
have
something.
songs from Styx running through my head.
He drives the genie to drink quite a bit too.
I mean,
That's brilliant. If I had like a passive aggressive, angel on my shoulder, fairy type thing, then yeah, driving her to drink would be my number one priority.
oh, it's not a woman. It's a big fat hairy dude.
Well,
Yes,
whatever.
he sometimes turns into a
We-
woman though. Actually, so he sort of jumps
True.
back and forth between.
We
his two
can't
different
always get what we
forms.
want. I mean,
Sure.
And I find that you often don't get what you need either.
That is true.
I'm just saying that song is a lie.
Anyway,
well,
how about you, Matt?
you only get what you need if you try sometimes, and even then you just might.
So, what are you watching, Matt?
What am I watching? Oh man, not a whole lot, but I, like you, watched the end of Kill la Kill, and you know what? It was pretty epic.
It was.
But in a sense, it was still the same thing. Like the show has done such a good job of being increasingly outrageous that the final episode wound up being more of the same.
It kind of ended as I expected it to in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, even despite the ridiculous shit that happened, it's like, well, yes, that's a single step up above the previous episode.
Yeah, true.
Well, at least they didn't go with the Evangelion TV ending.
I don't think that anyone could get away with that.
Stop
again,
giving
Mercedes.
spoilers, Ben.
Oh well, it's been what, over a decade and a half now, close to
Yeah,
20 years.
It's true. Well, it's not like Anno got away with the Eva ending. I mean, people bitched to high heaven about it.
I mean, hey, it couldn't be as bad as episode 11 of last week's Wizard Barsters, which I think had like a minute and a half of like no animation there.
True.
Yeah, that does
nothing
sound
like
like
90 seconds.
traditional Gainax. It's like I remember one episode of Karikano where they're like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just take pictures of the manga pages and show a half hour of that.
I remember that, yeah, I was going to bring that up. And then, of course, the wonderful scene toward the end of the show where they had one of the animators, live-action heads in photographic form, appear on a classmate's body for no real reason in the back of the classroom.
And then there was one where they burned the cells at the end of the episode and they all got high.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was
got
like
kinda-
19 or 20, so that explains what happened on the rest of the episodes.
Yeah, pretty much. They got really unhinged.
We should smoke cell more often. So, how about you, Benji? What are you watching?
Hey, I wasn't done.
Okay, what are you watching then, Matt?
Oh.
Okay, so I mentioned Kill la Kill, right? I haven't
It's the name in
actually.
Spanish for kill the kill.
Yeah, good one. All right.
Ho, ho, ho.
So I didn't actually watch the episode this week, but I will soon enough. Just wanted to mention that Space Brothers has reached episode 100 this week.
Woohoo!
So, sort of a mini congrats to those guys for that. They made a good show, and it's actually lasted a while. So, terrific.
My 2 cents on that are that if they did a Russian fan translation of that, they could call it Spasi Bros for short, and it would work as kind of a Russian joke.
Yes, it could.
Right.
Ho, ho, ho.
Cosmo Bros.
High fiving in the stars.
Planets. Oh wait, that's already taken.
Yeah.
All right, and the other thing I watched, I'm kind of surprised that I watched all the way through this, but it's a really good show, is Robotics Notes, which I picked up at Anime Boston 2014. Plug.
Oh, someone does need to, step up and take a stand for all of these shows with semicolons in the middle of their name.
Hell yeah. There's like 2 of them now, right?
Yeah, pretty
There's-
much. I have Steins Gate, but I haven't gotten around to watching it yet myself.
Well,
I think
I
you
only
mean
have-
Stein's
oh,
semicolon gate.
I have Chaos, and that's the only one I have. But I did see Robotics Notes when it was airing. That was actually very good.
Yes, I was about to get to that.
Go ahead.
All right. So, this is a show about a young girl named Akiho who wants to make a giant robot because that's sort of what her the club that she's a part of was created for by her older sister, who is also played by Kikuko Inoue. It's kind of awesome. And
17.
she sort of
Oi, oi.
she has this quality about her that she ropes all of these people into helping her, including but not limited to people who work for the Japan Space Agency, which is pretty awesome. But it's a show about robots being the inspiration for justice in the world, and well, specifically a giant robot is what they're trying to build. And it's just very inspiring, and I won't go into too much more detail about it, but it kind of follows a trajectory that you might think, except there's also this subplot where Aki's friend Yashio Kaito, and she calls him Kai. That's why I keep forgetting his name. He finds this AR avatar named Irie, and she's like this sort of weird guardian of a bunch of documents by this guy that got murdered, and there's definitely an intrigue plot going on there. So on the surface there's Akiho and her club and everything going around that, and then there's the subplot with Irie and these documents and the murdered guy, and Aki's sister is involved in that. So it's a very interesting show. I enjoyed it.
Definitely my favorite girl in that show is Frau.
Oh God. Yeah, Frau Kojiro.
Yeah, and then the karate girl. I also like her for personal reasons, but we won't get into that here.
Spoilers,
Yeah.
the show ends with them going on to make the original Giant Robo OVA series from the 90s.
But, well, before I finish talking about this, I would also like to, point out a couple interesting things to me. One, this was based on a light novel, or not a light novel, a visual novel, which I find interesting because I don't typically find visual novels interesting. I think they tend to be, trend eroge, even though they don't always, do it overtly. And this
Objection!
and this story doesn't really have anything to do with that. It's actually really endearing. And the other thing was, it's obviously made into anime by Production IG, and those guys are just on fire right now. I like almost everything they do.
I've actually read some sort of, I guess, indulging visual novels in the past few years, even back in college. In fact, there was this one group that used to do, this sort of translation festival they would do online, where they would get these freeware visual novels, and they generally avoided the eroge type ones, or even ones where there was much interaction, and would translate those from Japanese to English. And the whole project kind of sadly fell apart within 3 years, but there's some really well-written, really interesting sort of indie visual novels out there that are worth downloading for that.
And not to mention that there are some commercial visual novels that do kind of buck the trend. Like Steins Gate was one of them where actually the anime series, if I didn't tell you it was a visual novel, you wouldn't know.
I think
Well,
Ever
yeah,
17
I mean,
actually.
it's the same
Yeah.
people, so it kind of the same principle. Like
True.
I extend my surprise to anything that they've made, essentially.
Yeah, I believe Ever 17 was one that was said to be pretty popular, but I think it's kind of hard to find today. I'm assuming there's still a few places selling it digitally, but it was sort of the predecessor to 999 and Virtue's Last Reward. And of course, now the whole Zero Escape series is kind of in jeopardy right now, too, unfortunately. It's a very violent game, too, apparently. I haven't played it, but I've heard it has extremely graphic violence described in it, because all of the main characters have bombs in their stomachs, and if you screw up in the game, they will start dying.
I really
Oh,
need to
so it's
pick-
like Cyber City.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah, it's said to be very good though, as is what do you call it? Virtue's Last Reward.
So how about you, Benji? What are you watching?
Well, aside from the obvious Impossamole, the animated series, as we were discussing before the recording, I did finally start watching anime again, so I'm actually a little bit more relevant on these podcasts again.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
watched-
I did too. Like, well, I've always watched a little bit of anime, but I'm watching more these days, and I have no idea why. I also have no idea why I'm enjoying it. It's crazy.
Watching anime, you say?
Yes, I barely watched any at all, and I've just been kind of crashing these podcasts like a bum the past few months.
Bastard.
It's like, I got nothing to say. Hey, there's Game of Thrones, I guess. Whatever. But yeah, I watched Summer Wars again a couple weeks
Yeah.
back, which was still a lot of fun as it always was, and it was fun to actually watch that for the first time since I reviewed it for Anime Dream years ago, so I didn't have to stop to constantly take notes or anything like before. And
Did you see
That was
Red
it.
Wedding? I mean Red Garden?
that's right. More like Red Wings. Do you know what that? You know what I mean?
I need to see Red Guard myself. I own it. I just haven't watched it yet.
Amazing. You managed to go to games in like 2 degrees.
Yeah.
So, ha! I call out your whatever.
Gonna paint your wagon. Gonna paint it good. Gonna paint it with whatever kind of paint, cause that.
I couldn't
variety
even
of
sing what you were thinking about. Dun, 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 dun,
It's
dun,
like, wow, I never did
dun,
Charles Heston give this Twitter. No, I never wrote. Oh, fuck it, I just screwed the joke up.
All right, I'll stop.
Okay, where were we?
What are you watching, dude?
Oh yeah. Aside from Summer Wars, which was still enjoyable anyway, I still need to see the Wolf Children movie that he's done too. But I've enjoyed everything else of Mamoru Hosoda's that I've seen so far. I watched Voices of a Distant Star, which is still a little bit pretentious and has aged a little bit, but it's still enjoyable too, and has a nice style to it. Even though I feel like at this point I can tell more easily that it was still made on a shoestring budget. And then I
That
finally
show
got-
is enjoyable for, well, if you concentrate on its merits, it's enjoyable. So I think that's kind of what you were saying. It's the literal distance between souls is sort of poetic, and
exactly.
and his further movies sort of cement the fact that he's not only a Miyazawa fan, but a poetic type in general.
Yeah, I have The Place Promised in Our Early Days, but I haven't watched that in years, so I need to go back and rewatch that. I need to check out his other stuff eventually, just to see what he's done with that and all of that too. But yeah, it's been interesting to see sort of his kind of presence as an auteur, since even though what he creates is definitely flawed and can be a little bit redundant thematically and in terms of his approach to it,
That's
it's still
that's
interesting
saying
and
it
stands
kindly.
out for what it is. Yeah.
Redundant
It's like, oh,
is
these people are gonna
redundant
try to
is,
get
is
together.
is definitely his thing.
Yeah, basically, teen boy, teen girl both want to see each other, but they can't. Or in
And
the
then
words
it's
of,
too late,
Patton
or
Oswalt,
maybe
as
it
he-
isn't.
That's right. Well,
Drama.
in the immortal words of Patton Oswalt, you can distill every romantic comedy down to this one concept: trying to fuck. And that's essentially a variation of that. It just tries to be a little bit more poetic about it. Yes, and then after, I guess, my 2-year break from that, I finally got back into One Piece on Hulu, and I am now, after watching their first arc dealing with Silver Fox Foxy, who is not quite the Ice King tormenting Slime Princess, I'm on to the Water 7 arc, where apparently they spent basically 2 years, 2+ years stranded without their ship after it broke down in Japan, and nearly 100 episodes. So, oh boy.
So buckle up. You're not going very far, very fast.
If
That's right.
Ben, if
At
you had
least
to
they've
guess,
introduced.
sorry, if you had to guess
Yeah.
what Hosoda's Achilles heel was, what would you say? He
Mm.
seems to have a pattern too, but I'm wondering what you think about that. What
His
his
anime
thing is.
his work all feels it reminds me of like the anime equivalent of almost something like John Hughes would do, but it doesn't feel quite as, I guess, acute or nuanced as John Hughes' films. But he's definitely sort of hooked on this theme of, I guess, youth and capturing certain things about it, but at the same time they feel a little bit sort of removed from reality and fetishized just a little bit too, in a way to sort of keep them essentially cute and otaku friendly too.
Yeah, and I wanted to know what you thought, just because I figured we would have similar thoughts about the thing, and I was definitely right. I think that he's focused on this kind of the innocence of this thing, right? And
Yeah, Seishun, the halcyon days of youth.
and if you consider how otaku are adults in many cases, and not exactly innocent, but maybe still having an innocent mindset, it all sort of
Yeah.
works out.
There can be kind of I guess, a state of arrested development there too, because it says something when you see how fixated on high school in particular otaku tend to be,
Right.
and you see that reflected in games and anime and all of that. And you rarely see shows that or works that really focus on characters who are older than that in many respects. And I mean, of course, even as a kid, it was amusing playing all of these games where you're saving the world as a group of crazy teenagers with superhuman powers fighting monsters. And then as you grow up, you think, nah. You just
Now
realize
I'm just fighting my boss and my coworkers, and
that's right.
it's never going to end. Oh God, I need to get out of here.
And that could have been a good plot for Persona 5, but no, back to high school.
You know, I'd actually play that in a Persona game, like Persona 2 did.
Yeah. Jonas!
Yeah, the whole problem with save the world type plots is the very idea that only this group of people can do it, right? It's like, you know what? I want to see a save the world plot where, literally hundreds of groups of people are like, fuck this shit. I'm gonna go get laid in my last few minutes. And then it's like some plan G or plan double M or whatever is the one that succeeds. Those are the ones that well, I might actually find it kind of boring, but and I suppose that's sort of the point. But you know what? That's how it would happen. It's like it wouldn't be the first 100 people that Alfred went to or whatever. Why the heck is Alfred working for those people anyway? You know what I'm saying?
You could be out there smoking a J and getting high on the street corner. Hanging loose, old other 70s terms.
All right. So there is something I want to say about Mamoru Hosoda, and that people are calling him, well, I would like to say people who either have an agenda or are just naive, mostly the former, are calling him the next Miyazaki, and I think that's just completely wrong. I think Hosoda can be and will be a good director, and I think his career is going to be littered with awards and acclaims, and he'll deserve pretty much all of it, or at least most of it. But in the end, unless something drastic changes, I just don't see him being the next Miyazaki, at least the way that people want to see him,
Yeah, I look at his films and I just kind of think it's kind of like Pretty in Pink or what do you call it? 16 Candles or
Yeah.
weird science in terms of depth.
Well, no,
Mm.
those are terrific movies, and actually, um, the
They
director
have
of those
different
movies,
themes.
I wish I could remember his name right now, but
That was John Hughes.
That
right,
was John
that was
Hughes.
John Hughes. God, why can't I remember anything? Uh,
Yeah, I mean,
but there was he died not too long ago, and there were quite a few well deserved moments of silence in his and tributes to his work. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Hosoda is going to be another John Hughes in a sense.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking forward to seeing that Wolf Children movie finally and watching Tokikake again. I've enjoyed his collaborations with Yoshiyuki Sadamoto too, just because it's nice to associate his art style and work with something other than Evangelion or Furikuri for once too.
mm,
Probably my favorite Hosoda movies still is the first one he did, or at least the first one that got any popularity. The Girl Who Left Through Time.
Yes, yes, Tokikake.
And
I can't wait to see that.
that's based on a Yasutaka Tsutsui novel.
Yeah,
And
Tsuchi.
kind of from early in his career, he wrote it in the '60s, and
There was some
it's a
recent
very
live action
short book,
adaptations.
kind of light novel length, and I think Hosoda did a really good job of capturing that sentiment. I would almost say he did a better job than the original.
Yeah, it was a quality film. Just feels again very much like the sort of story John Hughes would have told, just giving you this girl who can travel through time, but it's not being used for any great overriding purpose. It just allows her to change how she approaches her life and all of that, but eventually she encounters some limitations, and then of course there's a big metaphor about learning to grow up and confronting her own feelings and things like that in there too. There
Absolutely.
was a Richard Curtis movie late last year, About Time, which seemed to have a fairly similar theme going forward, though it covered a larger part of the young adult protagonist's life. Where I guess the whole premise, and I mean, this is the director behind other famous pieces of fluff, Pirate Radio, which of course was a lot of fun, and Love Actually,
That's
among
one of my
others.
favorite movies ever, Pirate Radio.
Yes.
Just
Yeah,
want to say
Pirate
that.
Radio is fantastic. And rest in peace, Philip Seymour
You know
Hoffman.
that was yes. I was I was gonna say the same thing. It's like we're on the same wavelength today.
Yeah.
That was the last, probably the latest movie of Philip Seymour Hoffman's that I really enjoyed, and it just something he says in that movie haunts me to this day. Especially knowing that he's dead. He says that. Let's see if I can capture it with any real fidelity. He says something like, I have this feeling I can't get rid of, and I know it to be true, although I wish I didn't. These are the best days of our lives.
Yeah, that was a relevant one there. And then I guess less than an hour later, the boat sinks.
Yeah, also relevant.
Yeah, his last work is actually the latter, I guess, three or so Hunger Games movies now, too. And he's apparently, he died with a week of filming left in the last one, apparently. So they're going to do, I guess, a sort of CGI recreation of him for his final major scene that he didn't get to shoot. So there will be CGI Hoffman in there. And those movies aren't terrible. I've seen the first two. They're both very long and basically PG-13 battle royale, but they're more bearable than some of that sort of teen romance stuff.
I think when he died, it was what struck me was hearing how he played in Death of the Salesman, and it made me immediately think of Synecdoche, New York.
Yeah, that was a
And
hell of a film too.
the movie where it's almost like I didn't realize how much that movie was just about him until he died, and his highlights of his bibliography came out.
Yeah, he's pretty much spent the whole story basically working on an art project that was so large and unfathomable in scope that it could never ever be finished in the first place, while he spends the entire film worrying about his declining health, and then he still manages to live to a relatively old age. older than the real Hoffman lived, sadly. But
Mm.
Yeah.
of course, much like him, I mean, he had his own demons and weird identity issues that really started taking hold at the end of the film. Of course, Hoffman obviously had his own demons in the first place, and I mean, he'd been clean for decades before he finally relapsed. And hell of a sad couple of last years, that's for sure.
That it was.
Yeah.
So was.
Anybody that anybody that cared to hear me, I would tell them he was one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, he was brilliant. I have to say, I usually don't feel anything when actors actually die. This is one of those rare cases where I just kind of felt upset when I found out.
Yeah.
It's like, damn it, I would have liked to have seen more of his work. But yeah, as I was sort of getting into that Richard Curtis film that I was getting into last year, which I guess is going to probably be out on DVD and such soon if it isn't yet. About Time basically looks like another one of his usual pieces of sort of fluff from this director that he's very good at making in the first place. But the main character is sort of the young son of a character played by the always great Bill Nye, of course, who was also in Pirate Radio, of course, and Love Actually, and probably just about everything Richard Curtis has done, knowing him. Because he's one of those British actors who turns up in everything. But yes, he's, I guess, reveals to him at a certain age when he maybe turns 18 or 20 that the men in their family can travel back in time. And so, of course, they have fun with the fact that...
Oh yeah, that movie. I want to see that.
Yeah, it's said to be a lot of fun. Very sort of basically insubstantial like his films tend to be, but just light, fluffy, and really enjoyable. And of course, he ends up courting Rachel McAdams' character, and of course uses his time travel ability so that after he isn't so great in bed the first time they sleep together, he time travels back and he's much better the second time around and things like that. And there's, I guess, lessons about how you can live your life if you can jump back and have a chance to redo everything and make it better, and what it really means to, I guess, live in the moment and things like that.
Yeah, I can rather shamelessly say that I'm a huge fanboy of Rachel McAdams. I think she's just beautiful.
Yeah, she's been in a lot of good stuff too, so
It's the dimples.
she is adorable. There is no denying that.
All right. Now's a good time to get back to the main discussion.
Yeah.
Last weekend was Anime Boston, so
Boston.
I was down there and Matt joined me.
So
We-
how was Anime Boston this year?
Anime Boston was very good this year. The one thing I did notice though was that there was a return of the line because due to the fact that they had to do bag checks, they pretty much naturally formed this giant, massive line that was people waiting to get in it any hour of the day. If I
Yeah,
remember correct.
it was unfortunate because quite a lot of people stay in the Sheraton because AB sets aside a block of rooms, but there's this couple 100 feet of mall space in between the Sheraton and the Heinz, and if they had been smart, they would have found a way to make an avenue between the anime fans staying in the hotel and the convention center. But instead, you just had to get your you had to wait in this giant line to get your bag checked to go into the convention. But in the reverse direction, you didn't have to get anything checked, even though a fairly significant number of the convention's events were in the hotel instead.
Yeah, including several industry panels. I know Aniplex was there. The Funimation Online panel was there. And some of the bigger events were definitely in that Sheraton ballroom.
So I
So
mean,
it's not like
I
flying
certainly appreciate what they were trying to do. The Boston bombing was a big scare, and nobody wants to relive that.
Right.
I completely understand it, but
Yeah, I was gonna make a crack about that.
And
But-
not only that, but they did turn up with some really highly illegal stuff. So, I mean, it's not without merit.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just I can appreciate that's a difficult area to secure, and there were definitely from a security standpoint there were definitely some holes there. So I don't know. Even there was one night when we went in from the street and they not only checked our bags but they wanted us down, and there wasn't anything to bother me about that. That was whatever, they're doing their job, but that took way less time to go through all of that than what everybody coming in from the mall entrance had to go through. It was actually kind of sad, because I think anybody that didn't have a press pass was waiting a long time on average to just get into the convention center from where they were sleeping.
I think if I remember correctly, average wait was about 45 minutes.
Yeah, it seems
Wow.
pretty long.
It is long. So, I mean, that was very unfortunate because, I mean, I can understand the need for the bag checks, but there definitely weren't enough checkers, and there were definitely some real big holdups in that section, which I hope they can fix in the next year.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
it
think
sounds
think
like
most of the time we
efficiency.
went through, it was what, 4 people? A couple, a couple cops and a couple people from the convention authority, whatever their name is.
Yeah, it really wasn't that much, and plus they had a canine at the Sheridan entrance, so that, like the Sheridan side, they had a canine unit. But yeah,
Those poor dogs.
those poor dogs, yeah. I mean, I do hope that next year they can kind of streamline it a bit, though, because that was, I mean, I think when I got there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, the line was all the way down to the lobby of the Sheridan.
Oh yeah, I seen
Um,
that picture.
yeah, I mean, I started taking photos, and like 9 o'clock, I said, "I'm here," and what the hell is that?
And
Yeah.
then the obligatory tweets
Yeah.
from that guy saying about this people need to anime boss people need to find Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as I was gonna say too, with them going out of their way to do all the bag checks after what happened in the marathon bombing, that's just kind of, I have to say, wow, these people really do know anime fans. But yeah, yeah, there's something to be said for making it more efficient for sure there. And there's got to be a better balance for the security.
Well, hopefully, starting the next year, they're able to, find some balances. I mean, I understand again with this year, what happened with the bombings last year. That something had to be done,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I don't want to. Obviously, no, I wasn't there because
Mhm.
I'll go to anime cons in 2. I'm still recovering from my surgery. I
mm.
don't want to say it sounded like it was ham-fisted, but it sounded like it could have been handled a lot better.
It's what I've heard described as cover your ass security.
Yeah.
The same sort of thing happened with the TSA after 9/11,
Yeah.
in the sense that now they've it's like they've gone too far in the other direction, right? They're
Exactly.
doing all of these. They're doing these backscatter scan X-rays, and they're doing everybody's going to take their shoes off, and you can't have any liquids and all this other
Yeah.
bullshit.
Mm.
Absurd, and it's
And
not helping. They're not catching people, so
right,
Well, it sounds like they stopped
and
the shoe thing. Or at
and
least
from what I've heard, people that go through with like the people that go through with like the sample guns and all that kinds of shit, they still get through. It's ridiculous.
yeah. Yeah,
But
I think they were supposed to,
on the other hand, it's they've got to they realize they've got to do something, and they're going maybe going about it the wrong way, but I think most people can can accept that they have the right intent, and sometimes it's all that matters, I think.
Mm.
Yeah, they are starting to check some of that stuff too. I think it was a little while back I read that they're starting to sort of, I guess, move away from those full body scanners that basically just produce like an outline of your nude body when they scan you, because people were uncomfortable with them and they were pretty much being abused by the staff in the first place.
Yeah, from what
It's
I
like
understand,
if they didn't flag me when I went when I went through the X-ray line with the amount of hardware I did, and trust me, it was substantial. Like I had camera equipment, I had wires, I had cables, I had I had a laptop, just all kinds.
A
It's
whimsical
like
sticker
it's
on one
like
thing that says
if
not a
if I
bot.
had the intent to make some kind of device on the plane, I had everything I could possibly need, But they sort of they sort of took a second look at everything I brought through, and then it's like, yeah, this guy's a nerd. Move along.
Yeah, I haven't actually flown since 9/11. Last time I did was about a week or so before the attack happened. But I remember even back then, they would still always make me turn on and off my Game Boys and things like that to prove that they were real video game systems and not explosives. Though I kind of think at the same time it would be kind of hilarious if I turned it on and everybody just blew up. Whoops.
It's kind of sad if you think about it that way. That they would rather have the security line blow up than the expensive airplane.
Getting back on topic, it kind of became LineCon, which is really unfortunate because I thought the programming was incredibly fantastic this year. They really had some great panels, some great events, and the guests were excellent.
How was the cosplay this year?
Cosplay was amazing. They had some really cool stuff. Like obviously there's a lot of Attack on Titan because I mean
They had Attack on Titan, and they had Sword Art Online, and other stuff.
Not enough Impossamole.
There was some more inventive stuff like
No, Impossible.
Everything's Impossamole.
There was some Minecraft, which was I think those costumes were entirely supplied by the dealer's room.
Yeah, but then for everything like that, there were some really interesting, inventive ones. Like you had the Chun-Li Hello Kitty. Generally, the quality of the costumes was fantastic this year, though.
Needs more people wearing nothing but cardboard boxes, getting stuck in doorways and holding up all the traffic.
No,
There was
there was enough of that.
You can just shove them and they'll never know who did it.
You know what? I would like to say one thing. I don't understand the people who make costumes that hide their faces. There's no point. It's like you could be literally anybody. It's like, okay, hey, you're Master Chief, whatever. You look exactly the
Master
same as
Chef.
every other Master Chief that's ever been dressed up.
The amazing thing is when Master Chief takes off his helmet, he's just another generic human douchebag. But yeah, I have to ask too. Are the people could do nothing?
I'm not trying to knock the people that dressed up in those costumes. It's hard to distinguish those people from anybody else that dresses up in the same costume, and in that sense, it's a bit flawed.
So what panels did you guys go to?
Let's
Literally
see.
all of them,
Yes, we were in 50 places at once. We're magical.
which is to say, like 5.
Seriously speaking, we went to Music is Magic. Let me see the actual titles here.
That one sounds close to what it was actually called. It was the first one that it kind of ran parallel to opening ceremonies, so we missed the first part of it. But
No, we only missed like the first 5 minutes because it started late.
yeah, opening ceremony did end earlier than expected. That one was kind of cool because it was like it was a series of clips from shows where music made a difference, and you can probably imagine a lot of those, right? And the selection that she the host picked was it was what you might expect. There was some stuff from Maho Shoujo, and I especially liked that she chose Chain from Vision of Escaflowne, because that's in my mind a particularly powerful piece.
Cross, do you remember Love?
That too, actually.
Yeah, that was in
you're
there.
you're joking, but she included that one too.
Yeah, it seemed like a kind of obvious choice.
Yeah, that's fair, and she
I kind of like
Unfortunately,
how
it didn't show the whole song, so it's like I'm singing it in my head through half of the convention because she didn't show the whole song and allow me to get past it. So, in that sense, it was a terrible panel. Don't go to it again because she doesn't show all of "Do You Remember Love."
But some of the clips she chose were really good. Like, I'm glad she used that ending monologue from Millennium Actress. That's still one of my favorite music. Not the monologue, but the montage. Sorry, that's still one of my favorite montages in
Yeah.
an anime film. Just
Also,
the
it
way it worked
wasn't the
out.
ending, FYI.
My bad. I haven't seen the movie in a while.
Gosh. Oop,
Yeah.
I've only watched it once. So.
I haven't seen the movie in a
Don't
while.
question
So
my Millennium Actress knowledge or
I'm
something.
not going. I'm not going to question your Millennium Actress knowledge. But she used stuff like
Hey,
like
I still miss Satoshi Kon because
mm,
he could have made a lot more good movies. Anyway,
mm,
I'm just hoping they actually finish Yume Mito Kikai, because from what they put out of that, it looks really, really gorgeous, and it has an interesting plot and concept going for it. Of course, I still need to see Perfect Blue and what do you call it, Paranoia Agent. I have everything else of his now, otherwise, and the one book of manga of his that made it here. So
mm.
I would say that Perfect Blue is a good it's a good psychological thriller, but if you don't like those sort of things, then you're not missing much.
yeah, I kind of had a feeling. That's one of the reasons I never got around to watching it before I got into
Paprika is a
Otherwise,
more fun one because that's also a Yasutaka Tsutsui show or book.
I haven't watched it in a few
And,
years, but I got it for Christmas.
it's more fun. Like he's kind of if you've read any of his stuff, he's kind of got like this perfect sort of dirty old man vibe to a lot of what he writes, and that definitely shows in Paprika.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, there are some big creeps in there, and I mean literally big creeps. They're probably the fattest anime characters I've ever seen in that movie. But yes, that whole movie is just like a crazy thrill ride.
I think that's what I think the whole the fatness of the one character is one of the things that I mean I can't speak for Satoshi Kon, but I imagine that that's one of the things that drew him to the story, that this beautiful woman could be in love with the fat man.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting twist. And of course, his, I guess, sort of protege who caused a lot of the early trouble too was portrayed as being rather obese as well, but he doesn't get very much screen time either. I don't think he even got any dialogue, as I recall, either.
I don't recall. But getting back to the discussion on the panel, otherwise, while it wasn't a bad panel, that was definitely rough around the edges. There were some places that it could have been kind of tightened up, cleaned up a bit. I mean, really, why did we have to see Uta no Prince Sama? That was like a band candidate and a half.
Well, I'm sure somebody wanted to see it.
Yeah. Well, I think to her credit, she mentioned that was a really bad show.
Yeah, she really did. She said this is not a good show, but I like the music.
That's kind of like brain powered in a
It's like-
nutshell, too.
Well, just to color it completely, this is the clip that she showed was like this this group that was performing on a stage and whatever, and this other group is like, oh my god, these guys are amazing. These are like the most epic thing I've ever seen, and male love, that sort of thing. And
You should have included that scene from Tokyo Godfathers with the Okama doing his singing in the cabaret.
oh man,
That would have been awesome, though.
yeah, Satoshi Kon definitely had a sense of humor.
Mm.
Yeah, no kidding. His films are always amazing. for
Because
that.
most of us would feel uncomfortable with this. So it's like, well, I mean, if we accidentally stumbled into that cabaret.
Exactly, and he just made a great, hilarious scene about that. And all the characters were treated like human beings, but there was a humor to all of them too, and how they interacted with everybody else.
Yeah, Yeah, it's like I love Tokyo Godfathers. And it's like they
Yeah, I watched it every
the
Christmas myself.
what you could
amazing.
argue is the main character is like this, this this normal sort of salary man, but he has a gambling problem, and the fact that he makes friends with this other cross-dressing man is really endearing. It's like you wouldn't expect those two
Yeah,
to be friends at all.
as they sort of comment on, they have sort of a little family unit between the two of them and that teenage girl Miyuki that they've taken in. I mean, they have their own.
I think
little
think
tent
both
there,
of them.
that's-
I think both of them felt the instinct to take care of Miyuki because she was obviously lost and didn't really
Yeah.
belong there.
Indeed. I like it just how unsort of typically anime-like a lot of the characters in his work are too. Like how the sort of male lead in Paprika always made me think of J. Jonah Jameson from Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, because he didn't want the wall crawler, dead.
Exactly. Yes. But yeah, it's kind of amazing to actually see them commit to characters like that, where mainstream anime would never give you characters that look like that as their leads. And of course, they look more
Or
like real
even
people.
characters that act like that. I mean, look at the piece he did for Memories. It was amazing. But you wouldn't you wouldn't ever see a male lead or multiple male leads in that sense that were that conflicted about even basic questions of who they were and what their weaknesses were.
True.
Yeah, Memories is one I still need to see. I haven't even seen Metropolis yet, to my great
Yeah,
shame.
I would say that all of Memories is worth seeing, but in retrospect, the first one that Kon directs is probably the best.
It always stood out. I think I remember seeing it like even in used bins at Hollywood Video back when Hollywood Video existed. But I think the only anime movie I picked up out of those back then was the black and white movie Tekkon Kincrete, which really didn't work as well, condensing the entire story into a maybe 2-hour movie. But it was visually lush and a lot of fun.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, it's a thrill ride, flawed, but a definite thrill ride for what it is. And Studio 4C did what they could with it. So.
Mm.
The animation itself was pretty gutsy too, and just how strange and surreal it was as well. Again, kind of like Kon's, something well removed from what you're used to in sort of mainstream anime.
Do you mean 4 degrees C?
Yes, or 4C for short. May the 4C be with you.
Uh,
Should
Getting
be
back on-
should be Studio 4K because that's like liquid helium, and that's like powerful shit. But I digress.
Yeah, getting back on topic, we did hit the usual industry haunts. We hit the Funimation panel, Funimation Online, and Aniplex, which I'd say went about as you'd expect. They talked their current stuff, they talked their coming soon stuff, and in the case of Aniplex, we actually got some decent news on what they acquired. They got a Meikaku City Actress, Mushishi Season 2, Nanana's Buried Treasure, and The Irregular
Yes.
and Magic High School. That was the other one.
Yeah, they got looks like they got 2 of the shows that I'm interested in next season. So that means I'll have to save about a month's worth of pay to get them when they come out.
Well, they got
A
one
month
of the
of
shows that I'm interested in, and then
Yeah.
I hope to God it streams somewhere else before they, put it out.
They're gonna hit Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually
If anybody who hasn't listened to the previous podcasts, it's Mushishi for me. I cannot wait. It's I know it's going to be more of the same, or at least I expect it to be, and that is completely the draw for me. It is going to be great if it's more of the same.
That's pretty much my draw to Yeet Man in the first place. That's all you really want. Or what you got the first time.
Agreed.
So you said you went to both the Funimation panels. How they go?
I actually
Yeah, there was
personally-
actually 5 of them, but we
Yeah.
went to 2.
Okay, my
Yeah,
bad.
because Funimation had 5 panels. They had Funimation previews, Funimation anniversary, Funimation Online, Funimation and the Attack on Titan dub premiere. We actually did hit the dub premiere as well. Um, Funimation Online was, well, it was kind of like the preview for the main event. Not a lot of big news. They went over stuff like, say, they went over
Wow.
some of their Funimation.com user data. Like, apparently their primary users are heavily involved in social media, obviously,
Right.
and cats, because who doesn't love cats?
Hmm. I guess someone who's allergic to cats wouldn't like cats.
True.
I don't even know
I'm
what you're
aware
talking
of
about,
this.
but it sounds similar to what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Me or a bunch of cats.
Afterwards, talk about stuff like video on demand. They're trying to get into every channel they can.
Yeah, that
Funimation.
was kind of their thing.
Yeah.
They emphasized the fact that they have apps on just about everything, and their whole
Anime everywhere.
their whole slogan is anime everywhere.
They gave a mention of Funimation show where they're not necessarily doing a full season this time around. They're just going to be doing like little quickies for convention coverage. They talked about Toonami, how it's doing well.
Yeah, instinctively I hate the Funimation show because they're doing what we should be doing.
Pretty
I
much.
watched it a few times. It's not. I don't have to watch it all.
I mean, I'm kidding a little bit, but it's kind of like it's kind of like via the show they're trying to they're trying to be the sole source of where fans should turn to for all things anime, and whatever. The videos are decent quality, and sometimes they have interesting things, but it's kind of like what we do, but in reverse is what I'm trying to say. They go to conventions and they interview fans and or fan publications, and it's like they're getting the opposite side of what we see. So it's sort of interesting and sort of cute, and whatever. It's in my mind, it's good PR, but it's hard to say anything other than that about it.
It's not gonna be something that's gonna really grow into anything like substantial.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's not really intended to. I mean,
No, it's really just them doing goofy stuff.
yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. Otherwise, they did the obvious. They talked about the online shop. They showed some trailers for stuff like Robotics Notes and the new Fairy Tale.
I have to say I appreciated that because I didn't really. Anybody that knows me knows that I've been not completely out of the scene, but a little bit out of touch, and I really loved Robotics Notes, and now I'm going back and watching Steins Gate, and I knew that was a thing too, but I didn't know that it was something I actually wanted to watch, and now I do.
Otherwise, gave a clip of the live action Yamato film, which is coming soon. Gave a clip from Data Live, which actually got me interested because it just looked freaking funny.
I know I'm gonna just kind of speak for myself.
Yep.
I watched the first episode. It's like I just found like not funny at all. But again,
Gotcha.
humor is subjective. I mean, I know other people raved and loved it, but I'm just like, I don't get this. This just isn't funny to me. But again, subjective humor. I mean, it's gonna really depend on your mileage may vary basically.
Definitely. But yeah, other than that, no real surprises, nothing really crazy. I figured they'd save like their license announcements or anything like that for the industry panel, but apparently, according to Matt, they really didn't give many surprises there either.
I would say that they sort of stretched it out, but the complete Attack on Titan cast announcement was news, and they also announced the Red Data Girl cast, which you know, if you like, if you prefer or like dubs, then that's news too. But that was the majority of what they talked about, and the other sort of, it wasn't really a bombshell, but they also talked about how Space Dandy 2 would be coming in the summer, and
Yeah,
I
I believe
believe
it's
that was on your agenda.
yeah, I believe that was July, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I'm
July.
actually really looking forward to. But
Likewise, Space Dandy is wonderful.
I'm looking forward to it, but I haven't seen any yet.
I thought the first episode was kind of weak because I thought they really should have went a little more crazy with it, and then after that it was good. I mean, it's ups and downs like any other series, but for what it is, I mean, I'm enjoying it.
Hmm.
It's not my favorite of the season, but you know, I mean, it is what it is. It's enjoyable to watch every week.
So I'll
I agree.
come up the door.
Otherwise, we hit up the Jam Project concert.
How was that? Because I heard some people say that actually was pretty good.
It was really good.
It was kind of like a jam,
Very high energy.
except
very,
it was real.
yes.
It was a real jam, except it wasn't a jam. It was a concert, but it was like a jam.
The project was successful.
Yeah. Basically, they split up into 2 nights. The first night was all the groups like as a group stuff. The second night would be more individual hits. So you'd have the stuff like Remove Revolution, Chala Hitchala, We Are hitting on Saturday, while Friday was there for more of their group hits, like say Savior in the Dark, the Super Robot Tyson songs, stuff like that.
Soul Taker. Can't forget
Soul
Soul Taker. That
Can't forget
that
Soul
was a
Taker.
really interesting show, and I think like literally 5 people have seen that.
I think more people
See
have
what I
seen
mean?
a spin. I think more people have seen a spin-off than the show itself.
I didn't even know there was a spinoff.
Nurse Angel Komugi.
Oh, right. I did know there was a spinoff. Thank you for reminding me.
Nurse Angel Wheat.
I think more
But-
people have actually seen that.
Totally, yeah. That's totally what I mean. Like, people probably think Nurse Angel Kamugi was the original of whatever twisted sort of thing that they made during that. But anyway, so yeah, Soul Taker was one of their hits, one of their early hits, and they performed it for us, and that was cool.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things is that the current Jam project has 5 members.
Yep.
It is. I'll just use their last names so I don't forget anything. So Kitadani, Okui, Masami Okui, Fukuyama,
Kageyama.
right. I know. I was gonna give to him. Okay, you know, I haven't forgotten everything. Okay, so Fukuyama is a veteran. He played as the voice of Basara in the Fire Bomber hits from Macro 7, and
Still haven't seen that.
so he's kind of I don't think he was one of the original members of Jam, but he's definitely a veteran. And then Endo is he's kind of like the booming voice of the group, and he's mostly performed with Jam. And did I miss anyone? Kageyama, right? You already mentioned him. He's kind of like I would like to consider him as the core of the group because he's been around longer than any of the other guys, and he's also one of the founding members. And he's known by his fans as Mr. Dragon Ball Z because he performed most of the songs for that.
I feel really weird now because I remember him from Mystical Ninja 64 game.
Yeah, you
Whenever
go
you
with
get to that
you
part
go
where
with
he
that.
would just Whenever you get to that part in Head Chala, where he was essentially done with the chorus, it always sounded to me like he was yelling "fuck you," which I thought was amazing.
But anyway, so there's these five guys that are current members. But one thing I wanted to mention was that one of the original members that's currently not performing with the group is Rika Matsumoto, and I noticed her name because Ben, isn't she one of the sort of fixtures of Animazement? Isn't she always at that con?
I don't know if she is these days because I haven't kept up with it, but I know she was at least for a while, so she may still well be a fixture there now. And I mean, I actually got to interact with her directly during one of the panels I went to years ago as well, and she was very, very fun.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, because she
like
was.
she's played some really iconic characters too, like Anpanman and characters like that.
Pikachu.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and she's also behind one of the early hits of Jam Project.
She was definitely memorable because he liked to get people out of their seats during her panel too and interact with them despite the language barrier. Because she really didn't speak any English at all, that I recall. So.
As a contrast, Yu Asakawa speaks very good English.
Interesting.
Yeah, she did. I mean, at least she had her. Well, Mike can speak to how she was at the interview, but yeah, she did a really good job of speaking English in the opening ceremony, which I was at.
Actually, her interview was almost entirely in English too. I think we only had to refer to the translator like twice.
Nice.
That is impressive.
Mm.
So what about some other panels you went to? What else did you guys see there?
Let's see. Otherwise, we did a couple of the late night panels like Extreme Geek. By the way, this podcast is devoted to Steve and Goosh Goosh Guy. Fuck you, Steve, and fuck you, Goosh Goosh Guy.
Fuck you, Goose Goose guy.
Now, who are these people you're referring to?
Fuck those guys.
You know what? You really don't want to know other than well, at least I don't know about Steve. I don't remember that.
Steve.
But Goose Goose Guy is all about he submitted a video of some hentai where a guy was doing really terrible things to another man, I believe, and the victim died in a sexual way.
Cool story, bro.
Hey, I'm not saying it was a cool story. You know, I'm just trying to leave out as many details as possible while still describing the thing.
I just screwed up the joke. I know. I killed it.
And Steve.
That was the joke.
Steve was actually in the first Extreme Geek panel ever, which was about 2 years ago, I must say, maybe 3. I can't remember off the top of my head, but at one point they asked out to the crowd to name out the most disgusting thing you can name. He called something out. I'm not going to say it on the air because it's horrible. Which got the host to the point where she was actually recoiling in horror when she looked it up on her MacBook. And it was projected on the screen for everyone to see.
Oh God.
So now, because obviously I'm not familiar with this, what is exactly this Extreme Geek panel?
Extreme Geek is kind of like almost like a variety hour panel for adults. I'd say they card at the door because it's definitely not for kids.
Right.
And they divide groups of people up into teams who are then tasked with doing these random, sometimes goofy, sometimes borderline creepy tasks. Like one of them for this year's is more of the goofy / disgusting nature, where they had provide a special beverage for members of each team to take, which were
Whoa! Just let me do it.
yeah,
all right.
You do it. You're better at this.
The base of this drink was oyster sauce,
Yes.
which, as anybody who has tried it knows, is disgusting, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yikes.
it was followed by no less than 1 cup of canola oil.
Oh God.
Okay, and then some amount that I don't remember of sriracha sauce. And to top it all off, if that wasn't disgusting enough, it was I think it was also another 1 cup portion of basically chopped up aloe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh god.
So, if you've ever smelled aloe, it is possibly the most disgusting thing imaginable, right?
Put it on your hands.
And if I don't know what it's like to drink it, but
I've drank it.
if you manage to smell it during or before you drink it, you're in for a rough ride, let me tell you.
Kind of like durian.
Yeah, I've had aloe vera juice before.
Yeesh.
Don't drink it straight. I learned that lesson.
Yeah. So it's like all of these things on top of each other, and they before the drinking began, they rightfully so, I think, apologized to all of the roommates of the people who would be drinking this beverage because they would be occupying the toilet of the hotel room for the entire night
The toilet.
in possibly multiple orientations, if you catch my drift.
Wow.
Say it
So
this
it's
way.
just like, welcome to the panel. We're going to poison you.
Pretty much. Just say it as bad. They
And
were
like
gonna shake their brains
woodsmen,
out.
they all took it.
Yep.
Oh Jesus.
Not one upshot. Which
Yeah,
was,
there was an obvious winner, but I have to give my nod to all of the contestants because there was one person who obviously had a bit of difficulty, but like a champ, they all did it.
only that one guy that got seconds.
Oh God.
Yeah, that guy was a fucking weirdo. He took the he took the sriracha
Yeah.
that was left over and
Downed it.
and squirted into his mouth and all over the fucking floor. And
Yeah.
that was expressly against the rules of the contest because
Yep.
they set aside 2 giant trash cans for any kind of accidents that might happen, and that guy just bypassed all of that.
Other events include like a Flappy Bird kind of tournament, I guess.
I think you mean Flappy Wings.
Flappy Wings, yeah, it's the Flappy Bird knockoff.
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
well,
still have
it's
Flappy
it's an
Bird in my
interesting knockoff because it the bird
Oops.
shits all over the floor, all over the floor while it's doing its thing.
I played an Earthbound-based knockoff of it on Newgrounds too.
And what other events were there? I'm drawing a blank on that.
Well, let's see. There was, I think when we walked in, the majority of the events were, they were doing like, they had all of the groups come up and act out some kind of scene from an obscure nerd movie.
Or in one case, it was the transformation scene from Sailor Moon done an interpretive dance.
Yeah, it was. Well, yeah, I shouldn't say it was obscure, but that was the majority of what we saw.
I have to say, I feel like it's missing something though. If they don't channel the old '90s competition shows a little bit and throw a physical challenge in there, just because seeing nerds try to take that on would be hilarious.
Drinking the oyster sauce wasn't a physical challenge.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it
more
really
digestive.
was.
I was thinking more external than internal.
No, it could have been external, but thankfully
true,
it
too.
wasn't.
Yeah, otherwise, let's see. Other events included Anime Unscripted, which is always great. It's pretty
Now-
much whose
now
line
I've
is it?
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. It's basically whose line is it anyway with 4 of the guests. This year it was Christina V, Matt Mercer, John Stalker, and Patrick Seitz.
Yeah, I've been to that before, and it after a couple times, I feel comfortable saying that's the best event that they have every year.
I kind of wish I could have made it to the Chibi Project this year, but it was scheduled alongside with the concert, so that didn't happen.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. But with Chibi Project, most of what they do is on the
choice.
web, and you can just watch it.
True, and you always know what's going to happen. It's always going to get destroyed in one way or another.
Yeah, I mean the last time we went, it was just like a live episode of Will It Blend.
And it beat the blender.
Yeah, it really did. They had to go to extreme lengths for the blender to win.
And that was a blend tech. That surprised me.
I would say that the panels that I wish I was able to make, Anime Hell was one of them.
That one,
We tried to go, but the room was filled past capacity, and unfortunately, even though we're press, they just couldn't let anyone in.
Yeah,
Well-
that's a fixture at Animazement, and I always had to get there as early as I could for that.
Because that's one where, actually, I kind of wish they could have gotten a big room for that one, but I can see why they wouldn't. I mean, while they did have a big crowd, it definitely wouldn't have filled that 2,000 capacity room. Although surprisingly, Bad Anime Bad did. I had to get there about 40 minutes early, and even with my press pass, I had to kind of find a spot.
You remember how big the line was for Anime Hell. I mean,
True, it went across the
I
way.
feel like they could have potentially filled that big room.
True.
I think when we arrived, there was probably a lot of people that gave up and went
True.
somewhere else.
Yeah, Animazement has like a gigantic ballroom reserved for Anime Hell, at least in the past, and I guess they have a similarly sized one in the convention center that they're holding it in now.
Oh, you were saying, Anthony? Sorry.
No, what's this Bad Anime Bad you went to see? No, what was this about?
Bad Anime Bad is actually one of my favorite events. It's what gave birth to the whole Bad Anime Night thing I do, and your Bad Anime Night needs series of articles. Basically, Brian T. Price, the guy that runs the Sci-Fi Continuum booth at the dealer's room, takes the stage for an hour and a half panel where he shows some of the worst things imaginable for anime in a comedically bad way.
Garzy's wing.
Well, yeah, I was gonna get to that.
Just that.
It's always Garzy's wing. I just I'm not trying to burst your bubble, but that particular thing, it's always there.
Actually, for the first year I went, it wasn't there.
Well, it should have been.
It's
But
always
anyway,
like-
yeah. Speaking of, typically what he'll do is he'll run clips of certain shows and kind of interject with commentary and jokes and stuff like that. Then he'll run an entire episode of something that's incredibly horrible. This year, like Matt said, Garzy's Wing was in there. He finally finished off the series with episode 3. But he also revisited a couple of titles for people that had never been before. Like, he showed 3 shorts from actually American cartoons based on very R-rated movies. Like, Police Academy the cartoon, Rambo the cartoon, and the pilot clip for the Governator cartoon. Which, if you've never seen it before, definitely check it out. It's pretty much purely a...
That sounds pretty awful.
It is pretty awful. It's basically an ego trip.
I was gonna say this sounds like something really awful.
Well, the Governator cartoon was basically this. As he was getting out of office, Arnold Schwarzenegger was going to fund a cartoon where he is a cybernetic superhero who, with the aid of a bunch of little kids and a Green Lantern ring, fights evil every single week. So you can tell what it's going to be. It's going to be pretty much an ego trip and a half.
I do not have a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
I was gonna say this sounds like incredibly convoluted
It is.
situation for him to blow, just reasons for him to blow stuff up.
He's
Well,
also continuously eating sausage.
well, I never
Yeah,
said it was
he's from
good.
Austria.
Probably taking steroids somewhere in the meantime.
I mean, I never said it was good.
He's also drinking crappy beer made with hard water, because that's what Austrians do.
Literally just hard water. Really disgusting, loamy water.
Getting back on topic. Otherwise, he showed off the highlight reel from a little known Korean title called Protectors of Universe. Not Protectors of the Universe, Protectors of Universe, which was directed by Joseph Lai. It It was basically Korea's attempt at making an anime that just rips off mecha designs, character designs, everything from famous shows and mashes them together in this horrible experience that's barely intelligible and just absolute garbage. It's got to spell out how bad this is a feature with a giant robot called Bazinga 7, which looks like Mazinger with a different head. Now, at the same time, there's this space train called the Astro Express, which is always the Super Express. It's always filled with little children. Now, here's the fun part: the two always go in tandem, and whenever the Bazinga 7 finishes up what it's doing, it spreads its legs, and the Super Express goes straight up its ass.
You know, I probably can make a comment here, but then I probably come off some kind of sex offender, so I'm not going to say anything about that.
I'll just say this.
What the show
your
itself
trip,
isn't
Maddox
some
School
kind of
Bus.
sex offender.
But
Well, it probably is.
yeah, this is like one of those tales that actually appears in like dollar store DVD racks pretty regularly. That's where I found my copy.
Oh lord.
And it's actually another highlight. It's got a character named Black Man.
Let me guess. He's black.
Yeah, how'd you guess? Now,
I don't know. Maybe I'm psychic.
Yes, but here's the fun part. Late in the film, he apparently screws up one too many times, and the evil leader, Lord Alfred, drags Black Man to the toxic waste pits. And as Black Man is begging for his life, Lord Alfred says, in no uncertain terms, "Jump, Black Man, jump!"
It's like, wow, if that isn't racist, I don't know what is.
Exactly. Yeah, this is an absolute pile of this garbage, but it's in that realm where it's so bad that it's utterly hilarious. But yeah, that's bad anime, bad in a nutshell. Bad anime, good times.
Also
When I
bad
say
anime.
bad, I mean really bad.
So bad. You know, I even went the next day to buy a copy of Garzy's Wing, and they were like, they laughed me out of the booth. It was like, did you really think we'd have a copy of that left?
Yeah, they sold right out. Garzy's Wing is legendary. I mean, it's got so many quotable quotes, like, "Oh my god, I felt like I was having a dream."
And then it has that one wing, but just the one.
And the giant duck, yes.
It was
Yeah.
wounded.
It's a one-winged angel, as it were.
So there is actually one thing I do want to ask you, Mike, because this was a big thing that got announced before Anime Boston. Was that they were going to
man.
do the Attack on Titan premiere for the English dub there
Mhm.
in Anime Boston, and did you go to that?
Yes, I did. I actually had
Yes.
to.
I did
I got
too.
a fun story about that one actually.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do actually.
You got a story.
Yes,
It's not
I was
funny.
actually sitting waiting for an interview with Christina V, who was being held up by. Apparently, something was holding her up on the way down.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
Literally, a group of fans were holding her up in the air, and I don't even know what I'm talking about. But there was some reason why she wasn't there.
Exactly. She couldn't make it. She was being held up by something. So, we found out like last minute, and pretty much literally had to run through the Heinz, 2 floors down to get to the room. And on top of that, I barely made it in. I was like the last one in
Yeah.
before they shut the door.
I was like, I was there before Mike, but the way it all went down, I was sort of sitting in another industry panel that I won't mention. That it's like, you know, that's where I figured I should be. And he's like, "No, we're going to the Attack on Titan premiere. Go now."
Well, I was advised to
Kind of.
get down there ASAP.
Yep.
Whoever told you
And
that was a sap.
and when we got there, it was an anime dub, and they announced the last actor that they hadn't announced before, and it was
Bryce Papenbrook.
yes. I would have said that, but the point I was trying to make was, yep, it's an anime dub, and hey, it's actually really good. And they showed 3 episodes of it, and that was the end.
Yeah, I was
Well,
kind of really curious about that because I know they were announcing people, throughout, or before this, before Anime lost about who was in, what parts, and of course everyone's just like, oh well, and then of course the clips come out and people are like, well, it's not that good, and then oh, it's good and it's meh, or oh, this sounds terrible, or it doesn't sound like the Japanese enough, and
I would say
standard bitching, but
I would say it's good.
Mm.
But the way that they announced the cast was a little, I don't know.
Haphazard.
I wouldn't even say that. They seem to lend more weight to it than most fans would attribute, I would say. But all that aside, I really enjoyed the dub, and they played 3 episodes of it in the premiere, and they had promised to play more of them later on that evening, and I didn't go. But whatever.
Yeah. Likewise, I really enjoyed the dub. It had great direction, very, very good talent behind it. I know a lot of people were skeptical going in that were just thrilled coming out.
Well, it was nice seeing people, react to, well, not only the guests that were there at the convention, but the new guy that was announced.
It was also kind of awesome to see 2,000 people singing the theme song to Attack on Titan.
that's something I wish I'd seen that.
That was kind of awesome. I wish I could
Yeah.
have gotten video, but they made us turn everything off before it started off for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, all I really remember from that was,
Everyone
yeah,
going, "Yeager."
a couple thousand people singing, Yeager!
Yeah, that and the German part in the beginning.
It was cool. Yeah, it was just like being at a normal concert. There's always that group of people that can sing every lyric, and they're, kind of weirdos, but you admire them for their dedication to the work or something.
Well,
And
I
you
was
try later when you realize you respect them.
I was actually seated next to a couple of the really hardcore fans. Like they were cracking a bridge on Titan jokes, like the point where John gets shot down by Mikasa. The first thing I heard was, "I don't think dudes are giants."
I have to say it too. How many people were cosplaying as Titans?
Not many Titans.
That's
Yeah, there was a couple, and
Yeah, I got a couple of shots of like the popular one was the female Titan,
yeah.
but I did see a couple colossals.
Oh, it's good to hear that some people had the guts to go that route.
Yeah, most people were the the soldiers.
The Survey Corps.
Yeah, I kind of figured as much given that they're the main characters
It was-
anyway.
There was 1 or 2 of the Survey Corps, but most of them were the more normal uniform,
The trainees.
the brown. Yeah.
Also, there were some really interesting ones. Like you had Mikasa in those Titan pajamas from the one shot there, which was kind of awesome because it was just so random.
Somebody dressed up as China, just telling the world that they're Mikasa as well. I wish this were my sort of idea about some years ago. I guess it was at a con when some of my friends came up with the idea of dressing up like a spoiler from a car and then just saying, "Oh yeah, we're spoilers."
Let's
It'd be a
see.
great way to troll everybody.
It is. Let's see. What else did we hit up this weekend, Matt? That weekend.
Well, let me interject here. How did you buy anything there? That's another
Way too much.
Did we buy anything?
Way too much.
I hear you ran a panel actually on at Anime Boston.
Well, yes, I did run a panel this weekend. From east to west, the superheroes of Japan and America. Basically, this is the 4th year running it. It was actually the baby of Sam Cusack. But both Ken Haley from Comic Book Resource and I ran the panel along with Sam, and we decided this year, even without him, we just keep going with it. The panel itself traces the history of both the superhero genre in Japan and America. So you go from, say, the pulp comics of the 20s to World War II to the modern modern heroes like X-Men and all that today. The Japanese side, we go from like the Kamishibai up to World War II, which again, big part, up to say like the Tokusatsu, the the anime series that kind of intersect with it, and finally to Super Sentai, which is the dominant brand today.
Mm.
Every year we manage to get a good reaction, but this is the first year I think where we've actually filled a big room of about 100 people and kept them glued in for the entire hour, which I'm very happy about.
Mm, sounds like a good success.
Hmm.
Sounds like an interesting panel. I mean, I'm not a huge superhero fan, but it sounded like that was an interesting panel to run.
It really was. It's a lot of fun to do. Um, I will say it right at the outset. Running a panel, a lot of work, but it's definitely a ton of fun.
You can dedicate an entire one to the Japanese Spider-Man series with a giant robot.
Oh, we mentioned that too.
Excellent, excellent.
Um, Actually, as part of the panel, we show the opening of that, which is great.
Yes, indeed. That's an all-time classic right there.
It is fantastic. It is so surreal, so silly, but it's still awesome.
It's like, why does Spider-Man need a giant robot in the first place?
Everything's better with giant
Well,
robots.
actually, here's another fun part. The Spider-Man Tokusatsu series actually introduced the giant robot.
Interesting.
It was the one that brought in the concept of the giant robot and the giant monsters.
Huh.
Lizard just takes a breath and gets really, really big.
I could make a joke about that, but we're already in R-rated territory.
Yeah, just throw up a disclaimer anyways at the beginning.
Yeah, that's true.
That's right. Warning, this podcast is run by butts. You've been warned.
So it sounded like Anime Boss was pretty good this year.
It really was.
Now, other than the sort of what became from what you guys said, LineCon, what would you say was anything else was bad about the con this year? Were there any other like big problems other than the line at the beginning, which
Not that I can really think of. Generally, like I said, it was scheduled well. A lot of the events were placed pretty well on the schedule. If anything, it was the biggest problem was there was too much awesome stuff and not enough time to see it, which is always a good problem to have.
yeah. I hear I hear Anime Boss got a really large crowd this year.
Yeah, they welcomed in. There were 24,798 attendees, which gigantic crowd. I mean, this is like the size of Bristol, Moore, and Rhode Island combined together, and then some. Which may not sound like much to a lot of people. That's two fairly decent sized towns, fairly densely sized towns.
For New England, anyway.
All for New England. Shut up. All descending upon one building.
Yeah. Most people don't realize that the entire population of New England isn't in Boston. But it's close. At least the entire population of New England college students is in Boston because there's literally nothing else.
Rhode Island College.
Literally nothing else.
Boston.
Let's just say this. Rhode Island as a whole has 1 million people, so it's a chunk of that in just enclosed in one building. Unfortunately, this also meant that if you want anything for a restaurant that was reasonably quick, wasn't going to happen. I remember walking by the Dunkin' Donuts, which always had a line going halfway down the Prudential Center.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
was-
I believe I was part of that too. It's like, seriously?
Yeah, especially considering that
It's like, seriously, this is a Dunkin' Donuts. There's like literally 1 million of these in the Boston area, and this one's crowded.
There was one 3 buildings away, and there was no one in there. Remember?
I don't remember the last
Yep.
time I saw one, but then we eat Krispy Kreme.
That's right. There's one in the Back Bay Station.
Uh-huh.
Because, well, it seems like that's far away, to be honest, but it really isn't.
No, it's a 5-minute walk, unless you're carrying a bunch of equipment.
Like all of your luggage.
Yes, but it was funny because you couldn't get into Dunkin' Donuts, but over on Payne you could You could go right in, get everything you need, leave in 2 minutes.
Because it's French.
Yeah.
And nobody likes the French.
Also, there's
It's
um
true though. That place was, they serve breakfast sandwiches on bagels. They're pretty good, and the place was completely empty.
there's a reason for that too. New Englanders, for some reason, are addicted to Dunkin' Donuts.
Also, they can't pronounce French things. Also, there was a salad place that was closed almost literally all of the time.
Yeah,
Right next to that.
tossed salads.
Toss.
I can.
They
I
make
can
you
make a
toss
joke.
the salad.
Um,
I'm not gonna make any jokes on that. I'll refrain from making comments.
Please
You
do.
don't need to because we already did.
Also,
think it'd be
the
very
cupcake
popular
cart
abroad.
sold. The cupcake place Crumbs kept selling out. Remember that?
Fucking cupcakes. What is it about nerds and cupcakes?
I guess I like their cupcakes.
Cupcakes are delicious.
Obviously, they do.
Yes, they have.
Yes. So let me ask this question: with AB growing, I don't know how fast it is growing. It seems to be getting bigger every year.
Yeah.
Well,
This year,
it
we're about
it
10%.
mostly is. I mean, well, Mike can speak more to this, but I believe that the
2013.
last year was not as big. And many people would say that it's because of the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah.
But this year was pretty substantial. Like it was. You said it was 25,000 something, Mike.
Here we go. I got the statistics here. 2012 it was 22,065. 2013 it was 21,825. So very small drop. Again, mostly attributed to fear from the bombings. This year saw about a 12% jump to 24,798.
Yeah, so that's really good. I mean, I think that's impressive despite the, I'm a little bit older and crotchety, etc. But I think that if I had to endure the bag check line that most people did, I might have gone insane because my tendency is to go in and out of the convention hall several times a day, and maybe I would just if I weren't press, I would just have to stay in there longer than I normally would. But
I will say
the way they had the schedule was it was like in and out because some of the industry events were actually in the hotel instead of the convention center, and that was, I would say, part of the issue.
yeah,
So anybody that was like into cosplay probably wouldn't have noticed because they would stay in the building all day. But anybody who wanted to follow the goings on of the industry, if you didn't have a press pass, you would have seen some real horrors that weekend, let me say.
Oh yeah. I mean, I will say I am so glad that they were as accommodating to the press as they were. I mean, I really appreciate it because we would not have half the coverage we did if we had to wait in line every time. We'd be stuck.
I feel like we got privileged treatment either way because
Agreed.
Even if we had to get our bags checked, we didn't have to wait in the line for it. We just went in.
Exactly. And again, I do appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, and that's definitely activity and I guess behavior on their part worth encouraging there.
Maybe we should make this a reality. We talked about letting Ben, when he chooses to join us, just talk about his opinions about games for a short amount of time. And you know what? He's here, and I feel like we should do that if he has anything he wants to say.
All right, Ben, we'll give you 10 minutes open forum on games.
Okay, well, I don't have a whole lot to talk about this time because I've mostly just been playing little downloadable Circle Entertainment stuff from the 3DS eShop, and then Animal Crossing, of course. And everybody knows what Animal Crossing is about because it is crack and it consumes your life forever. But yes, the two games I've been playing from Circle Entertainment as of late, though, are just one Tap and Go, a fairly recent little puzzle release by Hugo Smits, otherwise known as Goodbye Galaxy Games, a one-man development team, I believe, from Poland. I'm not sure if I'm entirely right about that, who's known for a number of DSiWare games that he's done, the Flipper games and such. This one is sort of like Picross, just a little bit in terms of how it appears, but it's essentially all about extending different colored lines to, I guess, make them sort of intersect for the exact number of pixels you need to complete different pictures. And there's 104 of those puzzles. And it's fairly short, fairly simple, but it's a lot of fun too. So that's good. And then otherwise, I've been playing Quell Reflect, which is another one they ported. That's actually a fairly straightforward Fallen Tree games, iOS and Android game. So you can easily get that and its other entries in the franchise on mobile phones as well, and tablets and such. And it's basically just all about moving little drops of rain all across these environments. You get little boards to solve puzzles, collecting little pearls and things like that. And it feels like, say, Chip's Challenge and basically any sliding ice puzzle you've seen in a game like Zelda or anything like that before. But they actually managed to make it into something really sort of chilled out and fun and zen-like, easy to zone out to, really lovely music. Really, any version of that is worth playing, and it's just a good time. So, simple, relaxing puzzler. And that and Tap and Go are both actually pretty cheap on the eShop, like $3 and $4 respectively. So, good times, good times.
So it's like the Street Pass puzzle game, but you spend more money.
A little bit there. But I guess Street Pass, the puzzle game, is more like, I guess, collecting puzzle pieces, whereas these ones are more about, well, you get the full content, obviously, for paying for them, so you don't have to worry about gradually collecting pieces. Yeah. And in the case of Tap and Go, basically, you have all of these little squares with numbers on them, and you want to get them to extend in a certain direction by that exact number of squares. But once you start extending it, it'll keep going until it hits a wall or a block of any kind. So your goal is to try to sort of create the right lines in the right directions to create the image.
Yeah, I was kidding a little bit. I neglected to mention that one of the things that honestly I wish I could remember the guest that mentioned that, but it could have been. It could have been McFarland, but one of the guests mentioned that he needed puzzle pieces, and that was actually my first time doing Street Pass puzzle pieces.
Yeah, you finally discovered the magic of Street Pass.
Yeah. Well, you say magic, I say crack, but whatever.
Yes. It's all good. It's addictive.
Well, there are different kinds of magic.
But I throughout the convention, I managed to fill out 3 puzzles, which is pretty respectable. And in my Bravely Default game, I now have 130 plus villagers. So I feel like the con was a success.
Yeah, I've always heard great things about cons for Street Pass, and I haven't had the opportunity to go to one since I finished, since I first got into the 3DS. So unfortunately, I've been relatively stranded in the suburbs in regard to that, but Street Pass is still easily one of the best things anybody's come up with in this generation of gaming. It lets people connect in a way that you really can't and couldn't before and all of that. I mean, they dabbled in that idea on the DS with things like Bark Mode and Nintendogs, and then The World Ends With You had something similar that you could use to connect to, I guess, level up your little pins to make your character more fashionable the way Tetsuya Nomura would like his players to be. But yeah, Street Pass is just addictive, and the only real issue I have with it at this point is that I wish it was just easier to get for those of us living in the suburbs, aside from the relay system that they've introduced for that, and otherwise that there were more than 12 slots for that, because when you get enough games that use it, it's hard choosing which ones to assign to it and which ones to leave out.
Yeah, that's a good point. I live in downtown Orlando, but the where I live is well, um, spoiler alert, Orlando has a lot of lakes. So I live next to one of them, and on the west side of the lake, there's a lot of people who might, street pass tag me, and on the right side of the lake, there's a lot of people who might street pass tag me, but I don't have my 3DS on me all of the time when I go around the lake. So it's a little bit, geo challenged.
Yeah, I've
But
taken my.
I would say that recently I took trips to New Orleans and to Boston, and in both places in the airports, I met people who had done the basic street pass stuff. So that was fun. It was nice to see.
Yeah, I've always heard good things about airports as places to get street pass tags. I've taken my 3DS around our local lakes that I tend to walk around fairly regularly a number of times, but I really haven't had any luck with that. But even then, still, this is out in the suburbs where people are a lot more spread out in contrast to more urban areas, and there's just not enough people carrying their 3DSs with them often enough, so that at least the street pass concept and things like the pedometer and the play coins you can get for that are all good incentives, at least, too. So
Yeah.
I always just make a point of taking my 3DS with me just because I can pocket it whenever I go out anyway, which is a good time. And I haven't even started the 4 new games from all of their interesting different genres. And so we've got a nice classic shmup that they released last year, along with a gardening sim that everybody immediately turned their nose up at when it was revealed, but then it turned out to be awesome, so people ended up liking that, despite their initial reservations. And then a fairly shallow sort of rock, paper, scissors war game, and then the Scooby-Doo RPG, basically.
Scooby fucking
Yes,
do.
you go into a haunted mansion, you collect little pieces to put together the map, and you fight ghosts with your magic gun. If you manage to put together, I guess, room pieces of the same color, they will merge from hallways into larger rooms where you can get treasure chests and find upgrades for your HP and to level up your guns and collect more guns and items and such. It's a deeper RPG than the Find Me RPGs that are built in for free. But since you're going through a haunted, ghost-filled mansion in the middle of a dark, stormy night, it is the Scooby-Doo RPG.
Moving on, a few days ago, Discotech announced that they acquired the domestic rights to Castle Cagliostro. This is the Lupin movie that was directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Mike Ferreira, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
This is Anthony Simpson, and as I promised, I had 100% less North Korea jokes this time.
This is Matt Brown, and
I'm no longer president.
yeah, and that's the other guy. This is Matt Brown, and I don't have any inspirational